This is MRN Crew Call, brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Is it even possible that this weekend is the Coca-Cola 600? I mean, where did this season go? It is crazy that we are rolling into Charlotte for the season's longest race, but that's where we're at. And what a start it's been to the year with all of the different things, Bristol, Coda. And it continues on when we get done with Charlotte, Nashville, Road America. What an exciting time to be part of NASCAR racing. It is good, that's for sure. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network. This is Crew Call, presented by Hercules Tires, right on our strength. One of the things that I wanted to do with Crew Call this season is to just simulate some of those leaning up against the Goodyear conversations that we have in the garage area. And we're going to do that with a fabricator for Stewart-Haas Racing. Brian Murphy is his name, a fascinating guy on the racetrack, how he got here, and fascinating off the racetrack as well. So that's what we're going to do on Crew Call. We're chatting with Brian Murphy.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Crew Call presented by Hercules Tires rolling along, and Brian Murphy joins us from over at Stewart-Haas Racing. Hello, Brian. Welcome into Crew Call.
Postman, thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited. Thank you.
We live in such a weird time, okay? You're one of those guys where I don't necessarily know. I'm sure we've chatted in the garage area, but it was all pre-COVID.
Right.
And I follow it on social media, so I feel like I know you, but maybe I do, maybe I don't. It's just, that's kind of why we did Crew Call, to kind of simulate some of those leading up against a set of Goodyear conversations we have. So it's pretty cool, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a great thing about the technology now is I can meet a lot of people over social media or Zoom calls, and it's a great way to introduce yourself, to learn about people, and to do cool things like this.
Yep, no doubt. It is neat. Your passion for racing, it is following you on social media. You have a passion not only for NASCAR racing, but every form of racing. Where did your passion for racing come from, Brian?
Well, it jumped early. It started very late in my life. I didn't grow up in a family that we worked on race cars. We didn't watch a single race. It was all, Green Bay Packers and football. So when I was heading into my junior year, my mom asked me if I wanted to go to a NASCAR race. And I said, that sounds terrible. And she actually forced me to go to my first race at Watkins Glen. And I just fell in love with the noise, the people, the entire atmosphere of it. And from there on, I was able to move down here. I didn't go to school, and I got lucky enough to build late models. And then, just my progression through motorsports, I've met so many people that have introduced me to dirt racing or sports car racing or things like that. And I've been very fortunate enough to be part of a lot of different types of motorsports and get to see all the cool parts of it.
Were you one of those, and I know I am, although I spent a little time trying to deny this, were you one of those guys that career-wise, it's like, find my passion, I'm going to do that? Because it sounds like you just followed your heart down to North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to take the SATs in high school, and I was going to go to college. And one day my mom asked me if I was ready to do all that. And I said, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to move down south, and I want to work on a race team. And that's what I want to do. And so I set my mind and heart to it. And I just never looked back. It's been an absolute blessing from day one. And I'm very fortunate to make it where I'm at.
I love the passion because of the variety. I'm a guy that loves virtually all form of motorsports. I do a lot of short track racing. Yep. I don't get to follow the sports car stuff because I'm usually at the track and don't get to follow it. Is there a favorite type, or is there a type of thing, or is there a bucket list, or are you just kind of a fan of all of it?
No, I love every bit of it. For me, the NASCAR side has turned. I started as a fan. Now I'm a little bit more involved in it. It's somewhat of a job. You have to take it seriously. You have to kind of treat certain aspects of it like a job. It can't just be all jokes and being a fan all the time. You know, this is a serious sport. So I love every bit of being part of NASCAR, but I get to also go then to an IMSA race and just be a fan and hang out and do things like party and have a beer and watch a race. You know, you can't do that on pit road. So no, I love all of it. I love going to the dirt tracks. I've worked in short track racing a bunch. You know, I'd love to go to Hickory when I can and I'm home. So there is absolutely no favorite. I love if it's got tires and a motor. I mean, hell, even if it's on water, I'll watch the racing. I like it all.
I did a couple of weeks ago at Charlotte. I was home or off a weekend, and I did SVRA, which is the vintage racing, and then they had Trans Am and Trans Am 2 at the Roval. And I'm telling you, and that's as far out of my element of racing as I go, but it's not. It's just it's fascinating to see how guys and gals are making cars go around in circles or go around a road course. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and I saw a bunch of your pictures, and it's cool the variety of race cars that show up to events like that. You have stock cars, you have old sports cars, you have Miatas, you have all kinds of just a variety of amazing automobiles that you could watch go around the racetrack. So that's an event I would like to get to someday for sure.
Here's the other thing that just is amazing about it, and Brian, I know that you understand this. The people involved in the sport, and actually, former coworker of yours, Alan Mincy, he is working over in Nashville. He's working. The guy that does Big Machine Records, Scott Borchetta, he is working on his program. And I think that's the other fascinating part about racing is you don't really have to go too far into a garage area before you find somebody with it, whatever that degree of separation thing is that knows somebody. Well, once you meet somebody, you get behind the scenes in an instant.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's I started at the short track level, and there was a couple of years there where one of my friends, he actually raced in IMSA. And so for a year or two, I traveled with an IMSA team and worked in sports car racing. And it was just a flip of a switch. And if you're a motorsports fan or if you're a diehard motorsports worker, then, you're going to gel with anybody. It's not one way or the other. You can just dip your toes in anything and start running. So
who was that you were working with that you jumped from short tracks to IMSA?
Sean Rahal.
Oh my God, I know Sean real well. I talk sprint cars with him all the time now.
So I built his late models when he was running UARA, and soon after that, he moved over to the IMSA lights and then did the PC car. So I got to meet a lot of people there, and I worked a couple of years just being a fabricator because a lot of those teams are looking for people that can just make something out of anything. And it was fun to be able to travel with those guys and fabricate and learn their style of racing and their culture. And that's kind of where, my love for any kind of motorsports really exploded because, I got to see all kinds of things doing that with them.
Yeah, I can imagine. I ran into Sean. The first time I ran into him is the summer shootout with the Legends cars. He raced with us there. And then I knew he made the step to late models, which is natural. We have a lot of that. And the next thing I know, he's running sports cars. I'm like, okay, he took a turn here somewhere in the sports car world. And then I lost track with him, and I'm at a sprint car race in Wisconsin, and he's up there. Man, that's a boy that gets around.
Yeah, yep. And it's cool to see, and like we're talking about, it's cool to see crew members jump from racing series to racing series or discipline to discipline. It's really cool to see drivers do that, and I think we're seeing that more nowadays. We're going to see a lot more of it in the future. It's exciting to see, and it's awesome. He's so happy riding those sprint cars. It's fun to watch him learn something that he has never done before. I mean, you can go from maybe a sports car to a late model or asphalt car, but going from a sports car to a dirt car, now that's like Montoya when he went from F1 to NASCAR to the dirt track at Eldora.
Yeah, it is. It's neat. It really is. And I respect guys that do that so much, whether it's a world-class guy like Juan Pablo Montoya or an aspiring Knoxville national champion like Sean. Fun stuff, that is for sure. You're a fabricator at Stewart Haas Racing. Just tell our listeners, tell our viewer what that means. What you do day in and day out there at Stewart Haas.
Well, there's these current cars, it's definitely a special platform that we don't see anywhere else in the world of motorsports. There's so much fabrication that goes into these Gen 6 cars, from building the chassis to fabricating the bodies and installing them, to finish fab, to the paint and body side of things. So there's tons of different fabricators. And when I started at Stewart Haas, I started out as a front end body hanger, where the chassis comes in bare, and you install the fenders, the nose, the hood, the tail, all those pieces that you see on the outside. Finish fab is a lot more of crush panels, ductwork, windows, a lot of the finishing touches. And then you go to paint and body, and there's still a lot of fabrication and massaging that goes on in those rooms as well. But for me now, since I've gone from the body hanging side, I've become like a detail fabricator, where I watch each car as it goes through each department to make sure that the parts and pieces are being put together properly. They're meeting our spec, they're meeting NASCAR spec, and that they are as high performance of a race car as we can bring to the racetrack. So that's what I do. There's I think it's very underrated in how precise Cup teams are, how much energy and effort goes into making sure these cars, like I said, meet NASCAR standards, but just barely. So it's a fun game. It's very challenging because the tolerances are so small in this sport, that you have to keep up with these cars every day through every process.
Give us an idea. What are we talking tolerances here? Just give us an idea on some of the detail and how precise this has to be.
Well, I mean, you see it every Saturday and Sunday when teams fail, and fans always ask, well, are they cheating, or is what's going on? It's not necessarily that. It's they give you a tolerance on, let's say, on the body of plus or minus 150 thousandths, so a little more than a quarter inch. And if you fail by 1,000th, if you're 151, then you fail. And that could be the difference of a change in ambient temperature. That could be a difference of literally just pushing the car around and someone putting their hand in the wrong place. So, and same goes for the suspension. We're talking thousandths of an inch here, less than a human hair. So it's like I said, a very precise sport that we're in.
And I imagine you talk about the situation, someone puts their hand down, but these cars are also like a jigsaw puzzle. So someone puts their hand on the rear quarter panel, it probably is a factor as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the other thing, it is part of the gamemanship that we have with the officials. It's a cat and mouse game, and you see it, like I said, last couple of weeks with people pulling out skirts or something. These cars are so sensitive. So you have your moments where things are on purpose, but more times than not, things are not on purpose, and it's just how small these tolerances are, and NASCAR holds us to it, and as they should.
So you work, and you're the four teams at Stewart Haas Racing. You just work on all of them. Are there subtle things that Mike Bogaravich might like, or Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers, or are they four equal cars, or are there little things that these teams are allowed or able to customize a little bit?
So my job in particular, I'm on the 14 and 41, but there's another person in my position for them as well. But we work really well together, and we try to help each other on each team. Stewart Haas, some teams are separated by into two groups, let's say. Stewart Haas is very open. Everybody helps everybody. When a car goes down on a body plate, it's the next car. It doesn't matter if it's a 410, 1441, it goes down. So we all help everybody. But to your question, there right now with this aero package, and it's very tunable to a driver's likes and needs. And so each racetrack can bring up different difficulties for a different driver. And so the end result is the same, but how you get there can be very different. And that's just part of this 550 package. The 750 is a little bit more, it's a little bit easier to work with, because you know what you're trying to do. Just full downforce, and roll on. It's, when you get to 550, how do you find efficient downforce? How do you balance how much drag and how much downforce you need? And then again, what does a driver want? Do they want a free car? Do they want a tight car? And aerodynamics plays so much into these cars these days that it's really, there's so many options. It's not like 3 or 4 things you can change. There's hundreds of things on these cars that dictate how they react on the racetrack.
It fascinates me because it seems like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, we always talk about the box that NASCAR puts these teams in, the box that NASCAR puts these teams in. And it seems like, yes, the box is smaller, but there's still a lot of room with these minimal tolerances within inside that box.
Oh yeah, there's definitely the box appears small, but it's a pretty big box that we get to work with. 150 thousandths plus or minus 150, that's 300. That sounds like a small amount to a lot of people, but for us, there's so many areas that we can work in. There's so many things that we can change and still meet NASCAR standards. So, as time progresses, we get really good at finding little bits and pieces that in the end make up a lot. So no matter how small that box gets, there's always going to be somebody that can figure out how to utilize the rules and the situation we're in the best. And that's the way it's always going to be.
What's that like as a fabricator when that team wins on Sunday afternoon, to know that you had your hands on that winning piece?
Yeah,
how rewarding is that?
It's such an incredible feeling. And I think you go back to when you were a fan, when you were either a kid or even, for me, I was a young adult when I first started watching and wanted to be a part of the sport. And it's fulfilling in so many ways. Not only that you've made it to this small group of people and you're able to win cup races, but also to know that as much hard work and dedication that you and the guys around you have put into this race car, and how much the driver has worked and believes in us, to go out and win a cup race it gives goosebumps just talking about it. It's an incredible feeling for so many reasons.
Yeah, it just is. This is a difficult sport, and the men and women. We see the guys on pit road. We obviously see the driver. We see the crew chief. We talk to them all the time. But man, I'll tell you what. You want to talk about the team sport. I know you're a football fan, but I'll tell you what. NASCAR team sport has to probably be about as tight a knit a team as possible.
Absolutely, and then it's the entire sport too. Even other teams in us or the officials in us, we travel as a group of people together, 36 weekends out of this year. So or even more, so we're tight with everybody, whether it be other teams, whether it be our team. When I traveled full time, I saw my team more than I saw my wife. And that's just part of this sport. And yeah, the guys that you work with have your back, and even the guys on other teams have each other's backs. And it's an amazing family and community to be part of.
The reason I wanted to do Crew Call, to share the amazing community and family in this garage area. You've stated it much more eloquently than I ever did when I was pitching this whole idea, because it is, and it's so fascinating. And what I also find fascinating is the away from track interest that everybody has. Mm-hmm. Your mountain climbing, there's a parallel here for what I'm going through with some running. Okay. Yep. I am not Jimmy Johnson. Okay. Let's establish that, or Jamie McMurray, or one of those guys. But you climbed Mount Rainier a couple of years ago, but I actually want to go back, because it sounds to me like the mountain climbing almost started by accident on a road trip to Bristol. Is that accurate with one of your teammates?
Yes, that is 100% accurate. I think it's funny because my love for mountain climbing actually started a lot like my love for racing. Like, we're very fortunate to be able to travel all these places around the United States and see amazing landscapes. And so we would travel, and one of my coworkers, he loves to hike, and he would always ask me, "You want to go on a hike?" And I'd be like, "No, absolutely not." Yeah. Just like how I started my racing career. And finally, we were on our way to Bristol, and I could tell he was being a little quiet. And he looked over and said, "You want to go on a hike?" And I knew he wanted to go really bad. So yeah, I said, "All right, let's do it." So we stopped somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains, and we went up and went to Hawksbill Mountain and the Linville Gorge. And when I reached the top and saw those views and just the challenge of getting up there, an incredible feeling, and it just snowballed from there after that. It turned into not just a physical game, but a mental game. How much could I push myself? Where could I go? How hard of a hike could I do? And within a year and a half of doing my first hike, I had climbed Mount Rainier. So it snowballed out of control very quickly.
It is. The parallel I have is that the Knoxville Nationals, of course, the big sprint car race, my friend Kendra Jacobs is the marketing director out there. And she wanted to do a 410 cubic inch engine, a 410 run. Now it was going to be a beer run, and there was going to be brat stands and everything else. And, there's your hardcore runners, but then there's us fat radio guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And she said, I need somebody to let the people who are not running this know it's all right to walk this, all right to have
Absolutely.
fun.
Yes.
I was that guy. I said, okay, I'll walk to your beer stand. I'll walk to your bratwurst stand. I'll do this. No clue what was going to happen that day. Just like you on that mountain up in there. No clue what was going to happen. Somewhere out on the course, I'm out there, and I kind of had a spot where I was on my own. It was in a community part of Knoxville, Iowa. And Brad Sweet's dad ran up alongside of me and says, have you ever done anything like this before? I said, no, I'm here for the beer. Where's the next beer stand? That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And he says, I do interval runs. And I'm like, what's that? And he said, I'll run for 3 minutes and walk for a minute, run for a little bit, like that. And we chatted for a little bit. And he said, well, interval's up and away you go. So I'm sitting there saying, well, if I run, I can get to the beer stand quicker.
Right.
Okay, so maybe I'll do it. And I said, yeah, I'll just run a minute. Well, 45 seconds, I was done. I was gassed out. I was done. And I'm like, well, that's kind of embarrassing. I mean, but I did it. And we got done with the race, and I come across the line and chugging a beer, and I'm playing the role, but I was riding back to the hotel that day, back in Des Moines. And I'm like, I can do that interval walking, running thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I never said a word to anybody, never said a word to my daughters, never said a word. And November 3rd, 2018, I ran walk/interval my first 5K. And I think I'm at 35. I've done an 8K. I'm searching for a 10K. Isn't it amazing, Brian, how something that you never saw coming can all of a sudden take over all your time in your life?
Absolutely. And one of the best things I heard when I climbed Mount Rainier is our guide always said, everybody focuses on the summit of the mountain, and that's not really what it's about. It's about the summit of what you can do. Reach your summit, do the best you can, try the hardest you can, and that summit, whether it be the true summit or your summit, that summit's the most important thing. And so, that's kind of how I look at things, especially in mountain climbing, is my goal is to try to get to the top. But, I'm very proud of all the summits I've made, whether or not it's the true summit or not. So, and I try to build from there in each experience, whether it be racing or mountain climbing.
Yeah, that's the one thing, the key number. I mean, and I'm always conscious about PRs, which are personal records, and trying to get faster and trying to get better. I always tell people the key number is 5K or 8K or 10K. Doing it, that's the key number. And sometimes I get off the reservation on that and try to push myself a little harder. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But it's just fascinating. It really is. And when I was reading about you, I was like, man, his deal with mountain climbing is very similar. And I did my 5Ks, and someone says, you're going to want to do a 10K. You're going to no, there ain't no way in the world. There ain't no way in the world I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
The NASCAR schedule and the running schedule has been weird during COVID. But if I can find a 10K somewhere this summer or this fall, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, well, there's these half marathons. And I'm like,
there you go.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, how did this happen? Who are you? And what did you do with that beer drinker that just wanted to go to the next bratwurst stand?
Yeah. It's amazing what how motivated you get when you can do something you didn't think that you would be able to do. And I think that's a big part of it, is just doing something and wanting to achieve more.
And I think that's the case. Getting to my story, that race, November 3rd, 2018, at 54 years old, is the first athletic competition I ever did. I announced in high school. I announced sports. I was the PA guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and to think about doing an athletic competition was as foreign to me as anything in the world. And I can't wait. I've got my next one coming up the first weekend of June in China Grove. It's crazy how this thing takes over, and really is neat. Switching gears. Okay. I see on your profile, you are a charcuterie board expert lover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But then I followed along on social media and you went vegan for 30 days. Okay. I'm confused here.
So Andy Lally is a good friend of mine,
Yeah.
and he's a very big vegan for many reasons.
Right.
And just to, we talk about different vegan meals or restaurants, and when he comes down, then I get to see him, and we get to talk about things like that. And so I kind of just put it on a challenge of myself to learn more about veganism and what goes into it. And I feel like there's a lot of ways we can help the world. And I'm not saying you have to go vegan all the time, but there's a lot of different things you can eat and do to cut back on the impact of animals in the world. And so it was a really cool challenge for myself to learn more about that. And it really wasn't as hard as most people think. There's a lot of great products out there that make up for a lot of different things that you can or can't eat. And yeah, me and my wife did it for 30 straight days. But I do really enjoy my cheese. And so when on that 31st day, we definitely had a big cheese board. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That really is. My daughter came into the house and proclaimed that she was vegan.
Mhm.
And I first off had to Google it to see what cult she had joined, and just what does this mean? And I am where's my charcoal? Where's my tongs?
Right. Yeah.
I'm a carnivore.
Yeah.
And when she brought this into the house, I'm like, what in the world has happened here?
Right.
And she did it for 2.5 years. And it was spectacular because I learned all kinds of great things to make. And we actually have it incorporated in our life a lot. She is no longer vegan, but it's funny to hear you because Andy Lally may be at the time the only vegan that I knew. Right. And we happened to be at a road course race. And I said, dude, I need some, time out. I'm way over my head. And he was so passionate about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so helpful with it too.
He's got, I talked to him a lot on what to buy, what to get. He's also on his Instagram. He can go on to, I think it's Vegan Shopping Tips. And he kind of lays out a bunch of great restaurants, a bunch of great places to go. And if you go shopping, he lays out almost everything you can buy and what to make. So that was an extremely helpful page that I went on. And yeah, it was fun to learn all the different things to eat, and I have a lot of favorites that I'm gonna continue to eat a lot more in the future. So
yeah. There's been things I'm an old school dinner at the table guy with my kids, and there are a number of those things that are carrying over from the vegan era that just were really good, really neat stuff. That's for sure. So what is the key? My youngest daughter. We did our first charcuterie board over the holidays, and we're doing another one. She just got back from UNC Charlotte. What's the key to a good board?
Well, I'm a big cheese fan, so we don't necessarily put too much meats on there. There are some. I think you can go out and get a bunch of different cheeses and crackers, but for me, having a good honey and a good mustard, because you can put that about on anything, and it escalates what every taste bud in your mouth. It makes everything 10 times better.
Okay, so I did, and it sounds to me like it's a sweet and sour thing with the honey and the mustard.
Yes.
I did pears. I have a partnership with Sage Fruit, and they're an apple and pear and cherry producer. The girl up there, she said, do pears, which is very sweet. And I did pears with a goat cheese.
Oh,
dude, I'm telling you what. I mean,
I'll have to give that a shot. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had pears on one, so we'll definitely have to do that this weekend.
Yeah, that kind of is the one of the sweet parts about it, because it is cool. It is cool. Finally, for you here, I kind of want to step back to the mountain climbing. You guys have actually taken this mountain climbing, though. You and Justin Potter, your teammate, the guy that had you climbing the mountain in the first time. You
Yep.
guys have actually formed Appalachian Adventures Group. What is that?
So, we've traveled around the Western Carolinas so much that we've been on almost every trail and have shot almost every mountain. And we kind of got to the point where we were trying to figure out what would motivate us even more to continue to travel every weekend to the mountains if we were free. And so one of the best parts about the outdoors and even more sports is sharing these experiences and sharing these places with other people. And so what we've tried to do is come up with a way to not only be able to bring people either hiking, rappelling, climbing, but also create a community of people where each person has their different specialty and we can help each other out to learn other different fun aspects of the outdoors, whether it be kayaking or photography or whatever it is. It's not just a business to bring people to the outdoors and snap an Instagram photo. It's more of the education of the outdoors and how you can be responsible and how you can enjoy them and hopefully do that is every free moment you can.
Appalachian Adventure Group is really neat. Again, the parallels are crazy. I went kayaking with my daughters on the New River for the first time last year, and it's already on the docket. We don't know what days we're going, but we know that when that water temperature gets warm enough, so when Dad falls over, it's
Right.
We're not seizing up on anything. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually one day in January or maybe pre-Daytona, I wanted to go do something, and I actually went over to the URA forest and went for a hike, and I've never hiked in my life. So I mean, it's just it's neat. It really is, and I salute you on that, because the outdoors, and especially the mountains of North Carolina. My youngest one considered App State. She ended up at Charlotte, but oh man, Dad was hoping she'd have been at App State. That's a beautiful part of the world.
We live in an amazing area, like you said, with so much opportunity to get outside and enjoy the outdoors, whether it be just a simple hike or rappelling 450 feet or kayaking down a river. And I spent probably the first 6 years I lived here not knowing that and wasting that opportunity. And now that I know it, I'm going to use every opportunity that I can to enjoy it and hopefully introduce others to it as well.
Well, I may hit you up on some of the hiking stuff. I think that's another chapter that I kind of want to explore.
Absolutely.
It's really cool. And that part of the country is just, I love going up there. I really do. Well, Brian, I'm telling you what, this has been a real pleasure getting a chance to chat here on Crew Call. We appreciate the time. We're going into Charlotte this week. Does it even seem possible that we're in the second half of the regular season headed to Charlotte? Where did this year go?
No, it's absolutely flown by, and I don't know if it's last year with the pandemic, it kind of, there was a long break, and it for me it kind of drug out a little bit. But this year, being back on the routine of racing every weekend, and now that we've got backup cars and practice and qualifying coming up the next 5 out of 7 events, I think. It's flying by. So hopefully we can get some wins here, get locked in the playoffs, and see what happens.
See what happens, that's for sure. Thanks for the time, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Postman.
There we go. Fabricator at Stewart Haas Racing, Brian Murphy, joining us here on Crew Call.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
This weekend, all 3 of the National Touring Series and the ARCA Menard Series are at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's Coca-Cola 600 weekend, and I can't wait to see that place full of race fans. Charlotte, such a special spot. I know our friends at PRI have the radio coverage, but Charlotte is a neat spot, so near and dear to me. Actually, my first talking gig in North Carolina was at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I did some PA there and still do for the summer shootout, and did number of the NASCAR races back in the day as well before the MRN schedule took over. So I am so excited to see Charlotte full of people this weekend. It's the Coca-Cola 600. Crew members, you're going to have a lot of work this week. You know, Charlotte is a track that is not necessarily a high wear track. We'll see how it goes as it's aged a number of years. But boy, it's one of those tracks that is so temperature sensitive. There are times crew chiefs will make a call to put on 4 tires just to adjust the air pressure because the track is going through a change, especially as we run from late afternoon into the evening. The Coca-Cola 600, the longest race of the year. What a challenge it is. What a fun race. And crew members, they will enjoy their Memorial Day off after pitting the cars for this one multiple times. Motor Racing Network will be at Charlotte some this weekend. We have the Truck Series. It's the North Carolina Education Lottery 200. That is coming up on Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And also we have the General Tire 150 ARCA race, MRN's coverage at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night. You can go to MRN.com, look at our schedule tab, and not only do we have the schedule, we also have reminders there so you can set it to your phone or your device so you know that every time Motor Racing Network is on the air, you can twist us in, that's for sure. We appreciate Brian Murphy joining us here this week on Crew Call. More important than all of that, though, thank you for joining us here this week on Crew Call, presented by Hercules Tire.